An extension is a piece of card or similar that is attached to an edge of a page and then folds in. So I'm going to attach this piece of card to the outer edge and it will fold in like so when the book is closed. So the important thing to remember is that your extension must be shorter than the width of your page, so that when the book is closed you don't get a crease forming here in your extension. So the easiest way is with the piece of tape. This is a piece of non-stick baking paper to protect the tape from all the cat fur that lives at my house, and then it's simply a matter of putting the tape into position. And then I'll trim those ends off with the meat. So this is just a sketchbook, which is sort of like roughly the same height as my open journal. The most important thing when doing an extension is leaving a gap. It's a hinge. You're hinging a page. So you need to leave a gap to give room for the page to fold over. So it doesn't need to be a huge gap, a fraction more than the thickness of the paper or card that you are using. So now that will fold. See how then that folds like that if I want it to fold in, or I want it to go this way, it will fold that way. So then it's simply a matter of cutting another piece of tape to match and placing it on the opposite side, and then cutting it off square. So there you have an extension, which will then fold into there and then the page folds over. This is my current art journal that began life for me in a charity shop. I am using it as an altered book, so I'm using sort of some altered book techniques on it and treating those pages then as my art journal pages. For the extension for this page, I've cut out a piece from this page, and I'm going to put it as my extension so it will fold in. I prefer to use handmade paper instead of tape. I like handmade paper because it has strong, if you see that, you can see the long fibres in the paper. It is those long fibres that make the paper very strong. So it's going to stand up to being turned back and forth a lot. With the paper it's exactly the same process as the tape, except I'm using glue and handmade paper. Remember to leave the hinge. Now what I'll do next to disguise that join, because even when painted over that join is still going to be very obvious. So what I do then is I cover that area with text pages. So one thing to be aware of if you're adding text pages over the top of the paper, that you need to put a little more distance in your hinge, because you'll be adding to this thickness of paper here and what you're trying to scrunch down into here as you're folding. So just be aware of that when just sort of have a think about where you're going with your hinge when you're deciding what the distance is going to be. Extensions that I've used in my artwork. This is an altered book, but the principle is the same. So this is an extension here, that then folds out to become a 3-page spread. On the other side, of course, then you have the, so that's the fold there. In one of my journals, this is an extension from the top of the page. So this one folds out to become the roof of the house. This one is an extension from the bottom of the page, where I've put a piece of card on here as an extension and then folded it up and then stitched down to make it a pocket. And in this art journal, the extension is an envelope. So I've joined the envelope on, and then I've concealed the join on this side by, this is actually a piece of paper that I've printed out and stuck over the join. I hope you have lots of fun designing extensions for your artwork.